Welcome back. It's that time of the week. It's time for another episode of The Secret Diaries of a Gay Gynecologist in Paris, a memoir. Yes, you heard right, a memoir by Rafael Herrero, MD, PhD. The Secret Diaries of a Gay Gynecologist in Paris. Chapter 6. The Past and the Present. Part 1. Lying in bed, I woke up to the distant and now familiar noise of André in the bathroom down the hall, listening to his favorite radio station, Fun Radio. Of course, the radio DJs were doing their usual thing, playing telephone pranks on people and giving out sex advice to the young population in France. He switched off his electric toothbrush, swished water around his mouth, and spat it out into the sink and killed the radio. I propped myself up onto my elbows. "Bonjour, mon chéri," he said. "What you doing up so early in the morning?" André spoke French with the coolness of an American surfer. "I've got my CVs to redo. Complete overhaul." He dried his copious long hair with a white towel. "Did you ever get around to asking Yvonne for advice on that?" "Yeah, I did last night. Over dinner." "Oh, nice." He threw the towel onto one of the bar stools. "You were fast asleep when I got back. You looked exhausted." He flipped on white Calvin Klein underwear and a pair of socks. "What time did you get back?" I asked, admiring the 4 blonde hairs stranded between his strong pecs. "It was 1 o'clock in the morning when I turned off the light." "Oh, it must have been some time after 2. That's when Le Bar closes." Le Bar, Les Bars, was one of the most popular bars in Le Marais. "Weren't you working late last night?" I propped myself up on my hands now, a little stiffer. "I mean, that's what you said." "Oh, well, we really didn't finish late at the office, really. The system crashed." He pulled up a pair of 501s. "So I met up with the guys for drinks at Le Tropique, and then we ended up at Le Bar." Why hadn't he called me? "I would have been able to meet up with you guys," I said. "Well, it was just so last minute. Victor called me when I was getting into the car." I pressed my tongue up hard against my front teeth. Should I get angry? Instead of zipping back home to spend some time with me, he goes off with his friends. Don't make a scene. It's so ridiculous. He tightened his tie and in one gulp downed his espresso. "But that won't happen tonight. No, sir." He slipped on his shoes and grabbed his keys. "The system should be up today. Tonight it's going to be an all-nighter." He opened the door. "But don't worry about me." He looked back and flashed me a wide smile. "Bonne journée, mon chéri. Bisous." And he slammed to the door. Part 2. I climbed down from the mezzanine, wondering how to react, and went directly to André's compact stereo system. Noise was always a good way to get distracted from affairs from the mind. I'd left the radio on Nostalgie FM yesterday, a station that only plays songs from some romantic, remote past time. How should I react? Was this just a culture thing?
Et maintenant,
The radio host came in.
Our dear bébé from the warm blue waters of Saint-Tropez. Eh oui, mesdames et messieurs, the myth that was born in Roger Vadim's notorious film Et Dieu créa la femme. Who else but Brigitte Bardot? Listen to her take you to the swinging 60s of Je me donne à qui me plaît.
I had no idea Brigitte Bardot could sing. I had always pictured her as a fleshy dumb blonde, nothing more than eye candy in black and white movies. Surprised, I found that she could actually pull it off in front of a mic. She gaily skipped along the bars. Je me donne à qui me plaît, ça. N'est jamais le même mais, quoi? Faut avoir vécu sa vie? Non? Je trouve que ce n'est pas si, quoi? Which means, I give myself to whoever I please. Wow. But it's never the same guy. So what? One must live one's life, no? I really don't think it's that, huh? How sweet and insouciant, I thought to myself, pouring myself some coffee from Andre's Italian coffee pot. I wish I could be like that.
Bien sûr, dear listener, that was our belle Brigitte Bardot, bébé.
The radio host returned.
But let's not drift too far, let's stay in the 60s with yet another hit from the genius Serge Gainsbourg. This time, let's listen to him with just another of the many beautiful women who paraded through his arms, Jane Birkin with Je t'aime, moi non plus.
Immediately, I was carried away by the first notes of the song, atop hypnotizing musical waves, washing me towards a warm place where a couple was making love. Jane Birkin was faking orgasms while Serge Gainsbourg sang. Serge. Je vais et je viens, entre tes reins. Je vais et je viens, et je me retiens. Which means, I go back and forth between your loins. I come and go, and keep myself from coming. Jane says, Non, maintenant, viens. No, now, come. Wow. Now that's pretty cocky for the 60s, I thought, eyes round. But hey, this is France. Jane faked another orgasm.
Eh oui, if there's two, there's three,
The radio host yodeled.
So now, last but not least, Catherine Deneuve, who, although she denies it, everyone says she was really, and I mean really, close to that naughty little rascal, Serge Gainsbourg.
I couldn't believe it. Gainsbourg, with his tobacco-parched skin, droopy eyes, and satellite dish ears, had been able to seduce all these beautiful women? Those three sex symbols had shagged that thing? You had to leave it to the French to find someone so ugly, so seducing. I tasted my coffee and added some hot water to make it taste like the American stuff I preferred. I grabbed a day-old croissant, turned the tuner off, and sat down to watch an art show on TV. Intellectual food to make me feel less guilty about wasting my time. A curator circled around a white marble statue of a woman lying on a chaise longue, holding an apple delicately in her hand. Her hair was cropped up in the neoclassical style. Observe Pauline Bonaparte, the Emperor's sister, the softness of her skin, said the curator, squinting through whiskey-glass spectacles. Observe the cushy appearance of the velvet mattress she is lying on. He caressed the statue. Isn't it incroyable, incredible, that this is actually marble? This is definitely my favorite piece by the Italian sculptor Canova. It was indeed easy to be fascinated by the piece's beauty. I followed the curator's orders and relished in the pristine whiteness of the marble, the gentleness of Pauline's pose, the serenity of her smile. Note that Pauline's robe has slipped to bare her sumptuous breasts, such sweet, delicate breasts. Now, when the sculptor was revealed to the public, la sculpture, the upper crust of Europe was horrified, and they asked Pauline, sister to the most important man in Europe, and married into one of the richest Italian families, the Borgheses, why she had accepted to pose in the nude. The curator held his breath for effect, and then took a big sniff through his pelican-defined nose. Pauline answered, Mais why not? It wasn't cold. There was a fireplace. How could I not love the French? Even in the highest echelons of society, and even centuries ago, For the French, the body was just another part of life, to be enjoyed and not hidden. Like wine, like food, like the arts, they are to be savored, loved, and shared. The apple, the curator continued, the symbol that proclaims Venus's beauty, has been given to her by the shepherd boy, Paris. Of course, I mused, Paris always gets to say what's beautiful and what's not. Then the phone rang. It was in arm's reach, but I let it ring 3 times. People should never think you're desperate. It was gleeful Ronan, Victor's boyfriend, with a frisbee-sized mouth. Rafael, I remember you saying that you needed some money. I've got this freelance job that I usually do, but I'm not allowed out of the house this week. I've been grounded again. My sister ratted on me again. Oh, sure, Ronan, I said. I'll take anything. In Paris, even groceries at the co-op were prohibitively expensive. I needed the money. Well, he said, they need somebody for this very afternoon. Super, Ronan. I'm all yours. What do they need? What do you need? He said, do you bartend? Part 3. A few hours later, proud of myself for not being late for my first gig as a waiter, I took a step into an ornate building on Boulevard Haussmann. Finally, somebody here! Shouted a man in a poppy-red suit with a salt and pepper mustache, pushing me down the hall and up the stairs. Their break is coming! He hurled me into a large reception room with a fake glass ceiling hiding neon tubes. Now hurry up! So what would you like me to do, sir? I asked him, trying to gather myself. Well, serve, of course, he snapped. I understand that, sir, but I looked at all the tables covered with white tablecloths. Should I get something ready before the people arrive? His salt and pepper mustache twitched. Is this the first time you're doing this or what? My lips tightened. I'm going to get fired before I start the job. It is, monsieur, but I'm sure I'll be able to. He barked an unintelligible bag of potatoes. I'm sorry, could you speak just a little bit slower? I asked him. You see, I'm not for... Can't you even speak French? My accent sometimes worked against me. Making such an effort at pronouncing well in French made people assume I was French, at least until they'd really had a chance to listen to me. He cocked his head. You're not French, are you? He turned and, somehow convinced I couldn't see him anymore, he spat out some words that now sounded pretty nasty. He took a deep breath as if patience could be found in the air and looked me straight in the eye. I watched him writhe his lips and start gesticulating in a loud voice as if I were suddenly deaf and visually challenged. Instead of giving me instructions, he looked like he was flagging an airplane around a noisy airport. Go to the boxes, he overpronounced. Open the packs of food and put them in the paper plates on the tables. Go to the boxes. He turned around and started mumbling something about poor France and foreigners. Stomping his way to the swinging doors on the other side of the reception hall, he placed his hands on the doors and shouted, And get some bottles out, for Christ's sake! People will want something to drink! I hurried about, terrified. Why was it so easy for me to look like a total fool? Years of medical school and residency training? Useless. I struggled to rip the masking tape off the cardboard boxes. I finally tore one open and found a heap of bags containing potato chips, cashew peanuts, and funny-looking crackers. Squatting beside the boxes, I saw some blue plastic crates of bottles in a corner. I scurried around the room, throwing paper plates around the tables. I ran back to the boxes and started opening the packets and filling the plates with munchies. I thanked to the Lord when I found a bunch of paper cups at the bottom of one of those boxes and a corkscrew. I lined the bottles around the main table where I planned to stand. I was saved. Then I took my position, stiff as a sentinel. I stood behind the main table, ready for a battalion of conventioneers. The doors flew open. The man in the bright red suit barged back into the room, screaming, Hurry up! They're finishing Q&As! He stopped in his tracks and looked around. Open-mouthed, he took in the food-laden tables, the neatly distributed snack-filled plates, the head table with all the wine bottles, and the fizzy drinks in perfect line like soldiers awaiting a head of state.
What the?
His eyes bulged out of their sockets.
I told you to serve some snacks, not open a week's supply.
Et bien voilà, mes amis, c'est tout pour aujourd'hui. That's it for today, my friends. Join me for our next show of The Secret Diaries of a Gay Gynecologist in Paris, a memoir by Rafael Herrero, MD, PhD. Contact me at Rafael Herrero, RAFAEL.HERRERO.SF, like in San Francisco, at gmail.com. Au revoir, à la semaine prochaine, et vive Paris!
If you liked today's episode, would you please like my Facebook page? Search for A Gay Gynecologist in Paris. Please give me a hand and follow me as well on Twitter at Gay Gyno Paris with no spaces between the words, and share with me all your thoughts. Thank you and see you next week. Salut mes amis, ici le gynécologue gay de Paris, The Gay Gynecologist in Paris. Suivez-moi sur Facebook. Vous pouvez me trouver sous Gay Gynecologist Paris. Faites-moi un like, s'il vous plaît. Vous pouvez me suivre aussi sur Twitter, at Gay Gyno Paris. Ça s'appelle JAYGYNO, Paris comme la ville Paris. Répandions le bonheur et soyons tous amis sur Facebook and Twitter. Au revoir, beaucoup de bisous et à bientôt.